Hey guys, what's up? This is Falsebooles123, and this is going to be day 28 of my quarantine vlogs. Sorry about that. So, as you can tell, my setup isn't quite perfect right now. I was trying to set it up in my mom's bedroom, but I'm just having a really hard time finding a good angle. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be like. So each week I'm trying to do a music corner, just because it's a pretty fun just section of my vlogs to do, and it's pretty easy. And so this week I chose three bands that I just either seen in a TV show that I enjoyed, or were just sort of mentioned online. And that sounds really weird. It's not probably the best one, but I'm just I want to listen to some new music that I hadn't really checked out before, and I thought it'd be fun to just chat about it, because that's kind of what this section is about. Just me yimming and yamming about all the different music that I listen to and all the different genres, and it's too much of it, and I need to stop. You know how it is. So first up is they actually changed the name, but I'm going to give you their full name, and then I'll just let you know that they go by the abbreviation now. And that is Andrew Jackson Jihad, which I know, zesty name. They go by AJJ now, not because of any backlash, just because they felt that it wasn't the best name. And I think this that takes a lot of foresight, that takes a lot of just introspection, and I'm glad that they made that decision. I guess I'm at a loss for, but I'm just glad they made that decision for themselves, and that's nice. So Andrew Jack, the reason why I picked this band today, this is because I was bored on the internet a couple nights ago, and I basically just took a bunch of these what's your Tumblr aesthetic, and for one of them I got ghost punk. The other one I got vaporwave kawaii, and I'm just how? I am not kawaii. I am an ugly bitch. I am kawaii, or however you pronounce it. But so the other one was this ghost punk, and it's just you probably unironically listen to the front bottoms, and I'm thinking, bitch. First of all, front bottoms are okay, but it's come on, why you gotta be saying shit like that? And the other band they referenced was Andrew Jackson Jihad. I am so bad. I'm so sorry about the camera, guys. Andrew Jackson Jihad, and I'm thinking, I have listened to both of those bands, and they ain't bad. But it's not I'm the type of person that's oh my goodness, that's the best thing I've ever listened to, guys. Oh my goodness. Because I like other stuff. And so I not I thought the front bottoms were decent. I listened to a few of the songs. I mean, you put on twin size mattress, and I'm just oh my goodness, that's my jam. But Andrew Jackson Jihad, I had not really listened to that much. My best friend Chris, he has suggested it for me because he knew that I was into the shit like that. And so I listened to a few songs, and I'm just it's aight. But I decided to give it another listen and just really sort of figure out if I enjoyed the band. So I was a little confused when they mentioned the front bottoms and Andrew Jackson Jihad together in that Tumblr aesthetic quiz, because I never really linked the two. But now that I've gone back and really listened to both bands, they do have some very similar lyricism in their just the style. Not they plagiarize each other, but just because there is a stylistic similarity between the two, and so you can kind of see where they get that comparison from. That being so, if I was going to, let's see, pick another sort of song or band to sort of compare them to give you sort of a ballpark of their sound, it would probably be the song Jerusalem by, I had to look at the name, Dan Byrne. It was one of the songs they had on Night Vale, and it was the one that was and I like olives. The first season, it was a pretty good song. And so they have the sort of spoken word lyricism where they talk about a bunch of different things. And on top of that, the music is... So Andrew Jackson Jihad is listed as folk punk, which I had never thought about, but that really does describe them well, because you definitely have folk instrumentals, but the music is very punk-like. Well, it's not punk like it actually is punk, but you know what I mean. So instrumental-wise, I compare it to things That Way to the Egress or Caravan of Thieves, the sort of orchestration, world music stuff. But if I'm comparing it lyrically, it would be to the other two references I made. I liked the album for the most part. The first half of it wasn't quite my style. It was a little bit too chaotic, a little bit too hectic for my taste. But the later half of the album, oh, and I've got to mention that the album's name is "People Who Eat People," or sorry, "People Who Can Eat People Are the Luckiest People I Know," which is just zesty, you know. And so I liked it. The second half was pretty good in my opinion. So if I'm gonna rate it, I'm gonna say 7 out of 10. It was good. It was like not my favorite. If I'm gonna pick two, I'm gonna pick two songs from that to suggest to you, and that'll probably be a song dedicated to the memory of Stormy the Rabbit, which I love long song titles. Those are like my aesthetic, and People to the Reckoning. I just thought they were like some of the best stuff on the album. So if you like folk music, if you like really interesting lyricism, definitely HAJ would be a band I'd recommend. Next up, I first heard this on just the fantastically scored Lock and Keys, which came out on Netflix. It's based off of, I believe, an Image comic, but do not quote me on that. It might be a different publisher. So Lock and Key, they had a bunch of music from people like Claus, Alice in Wonderland, bunch of other bands of that style. And so I'm thinking like, okay, this is bitchin'. I'll enjoy it. I totally added a bunch of songs from that soundtrack, to my D&D OP. So it's a well thought. It was like a well-made score track. Score track, new words by Falsebooles123. Sorry, it was a well-made soundtrack. And so I pop down and I plug in Claus's Halfblood album. It might be an LP or an EP or something like that, because it was actually pretty short. It's only like 6 tracks or 9 tracks or something like that. And so Claus is listed as indie pop and a few other things, including Vapor Soul, which mostly just sounds like the most bitching ass racing game from the 80s. And I don't know what Vapor Soul is. I could not find any sort of genre description of it. And I didn't recognize any of the other bands in the genre that are described as it. But indie pop is a decent enough description of where Claus goes with its music. If I'm going to pin it down, it does have a good sense of electronica to it. It does have use a lot of synths, but I feel that the more melodic structure of it is very reminiscent of shoegaze. So 80s dream pop, essentially. So there is a few, songs in it, such as Sit You Down, which is one of my recommended songs for this one, which was very heavily shoegaze, inspired. Definitely gave me some School of Seven Bells, vibes to it. And besides that, another comparison I would make for Claus, just to give you a ballpark, would probably be Bishop Briggs. Just the sort of Claus had a very modern sort of both, shoegaze and electronica and folk, and the sort of combination that just provide a really enjoyable pop experience. So it's definitely more electronica, a lot more dance than shoegaze would be, but it definitely has those elements to it. So if I was going to recommend you some songs from the album, it would be Sit You Down and Leviathan, which both of the songs really hit the mark for the album. But I enjoyed it. It had some definitely great songs to it, and it has, as pop music goes, it slaps. So last up, and this one I actually have got into because I was writing it for the Boolean blog. Lock and Key was just sort of funsies because I heard a guy from work talk about it, and I'm just fine, I'll check it out. The ads have been stalking me on the internet forever, so whatevs, and it was great. So The Sinner was also on my list of things I want to watch, because I saw the premise for it years ago when it first came out, and I'm just that looks really good, but I don't pay for cable, so I'll never see this. 2018, they started streaming it on Netflix, still didn't watch it. Finally watched it 4 years later, after it's done being produced. Whatevs. The reason why I'm talking about The Sinner, about this just really fantastic crime drama that I'm going to link my article to, the description, is that it used some 2 songs from a band called Big Black Delta. I can say words today, fam. And so Big Black Delta, I was like doing some research on it, is actually a musical project, like Alex Turner's Submarine episode Alba, or like, Miracle Musical, stuff like that. And so it is written by Jonathan Bates, who is part of the band Mellowdrone, or was part of the band Mellowdrone. I'm not quite sure. And I was like reading up on it, and he was basically trying to sort of create a new sound because he was kind of tired of just getting together and like kind of cold open one of the boys and like fighting the patriarchy or something, like just like band shit. And so he wanted to like try to create his like own sound, like do a solo project. I'm thinking like, I love solo projects. They're usually pretty bitching, especially like when you get like a bunch of people, when you just get people like from different perspectives, you can really see how they influence like sort of the structure of the music from the band. So it's always interesting to see somebody's individual artistic expression, especially when you've only seen it in a group. So it's definitely very different from Mellowdrone. I am not an expert on Mellowdrone. I've not actually listened to him until like I checked out Big Black Delta, but it definitely has differences. So what mostly like sort of describes the sound of Big Black Delta, and this was their what's the phrase, eponymous album. The album is also called Big Black Delta. Is mostly it's very synth heavy, so it has a lot of rock. It has like a lot of rock to it, but mostly a lot of the main instrumentals are synths. And it just provides this very futuristic tone. And that is a lot of the description for it, if I remember correctly. One of the influences for the album was like the soundtrack to Blade Runner. And there was another movie mentioned, but I don't remember because it was in Russian. But basically it was based off of this sort of dystopian 80s sci-fi, like, aesthetic. And so a lot of the music had a little bit of space rock influence to it. X-22 and PB3 are tracks on the album which are entirely instrumentals, and they had that sort of like, sort of like galaxy ambience type sound to it, which it was fantastic. I love instrumental pieces in albums, so I really enjoyed those. And further on, there's some more heavier, more like very heavy, like I guess, rhythmic songs in there. So Hugging and Kissing and I think Capsize, I believe are two of the songs. And those are, then like, lyricism is, pretty standard like low love songs, little hugging, little pushing, little kissing and all that. But the music itself is very heavy and it has that very rhythmic meter to it, which is just fantastic to listen to. So there's some more heavier songs on the album. There's some more lighter stuff on the album. And so I actually put together a couple bands to just sort of like ballpark the sound of it. Because while the album is very cohesive sound-wise, there's a good amount of range to it, which I love. Because there's some albums, like bands, and all of their songs kind of sound the same. And that's just mostly like, what happens when you're a musician. When I made my album, literally all of the songs used the same 4 chords, almost. Like, there was very few chord, like, changes for, like, all the songs that I played and actually recorded. And so, there will be similarities like that happen just because that's sort of like, the key that you're stuck in, that's sort of the sound that you have in your ears. So, but he actually provided a really great range of music. And so there are a few references just to give you an idea. So like I said, there's a lot of 80s futurism type vibes to it. So I don't know what that beeping is. That's fine, mother. Anyway, there's some 80s like futuristic vibes to it, which is, so I like definitely included some like Muse to it. Definitely gave me like, Muse as a, so I am stumbling over my words, I apologize guys. So if we're talking about like references, we got Muse, which has been quoted by a lot of people, and I definitely get a little bit of those vibes there. 80s futurism, Sims heavy. It's hard not to make those comparisons, but it works. And Muse is great. So, if you like Muse, you definitely like the sound of this. Then if we're moving on to, let's see, more, I guess, electronic pop, it gave me a little bit of surf Coast, I believe. They have a song called Disco, and I absolutely loved it. And Half-Life, which also definitely gave me some vibes from there. Other band that remind me a bit of Big Black Delta is that some of their music, especially I believe Side of the Road, gave me a really strong Tally Hall vibe. Just the synthesized voices and sort of just like the aesthetic of that really sort of gave me a similar feeling where you had that sort of trippy instrumentation, you had a lot of the synthesizer and electronica heavy sound, and so there was definitely a bit of a comparison with that. So the genre itself of the album is a little hard to, I guess, settle on. There is a lot of different range to it, but the most common ones I saw mentioned was electronic rock, synth pop, industrial, and space rock. And so, and you can definitely hear the influences from all those. So it makes sense when you hear them referencing that. So label wise, it is a little hard to hear. Anyway, guys, this is getting a little long for the description. I'm kind of rambling a bit, so I'm just going to give you my two favorite songs in the album, which was "Side of the Road" and "Betamax." Also, in honorable mention, of course, is "Hugging and Kissing," just because I loved it on the Sinners. It was got me into the album, and it's really good. I just heard it way too many times now for it to be my favorite. Anyway, guys, so oh my arm's getting tired. That probably was the least professional album that I have done today, and I apologize about my rambling, about the background noise. I'm trying to do my best, but not. I don't always have the best conductive space for vlogging. I love it, but sometimes you have to take your lumps in with your oatmeal. Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this daily. I am so unprepared. I'm sorry. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I would say I worked on it, but do I ever, Anyway, remember, you can always because it helps me, know whether or not you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more of this, and it does help YouTube know that I'm the baddest bitch who needs all the love and affection. I love saying that. You can also comment. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you thought about these bands, what sort of songs you want me to check out next, and what was your favorite Falsebooles music corner? Of the ones I've done. I believe I have 3 or 4 of these now. Some of these are weekly vlogs. One of them was actually a segment of another vlog I did. Can't remember which one off the top of my head. But I've done a couple of these now, so tell me which one was your favorite. And if you have any ideas for, the music corners, because I do like to theme them if it's possible. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with picking, 3 random bands I listen to each week, but I do like to theme them, And also, lastly, you can always share. So if you have anybody in the world that wants to listen to some random fuck from Medford, Oregon, talk about bands and music for 18 minutes on end for no reason, I'm your guy. Send them your way. Look at the smiling mug. They need to see this. Anyway, guys, as always, I need to shut the fuck up because I've been rambling way too long. But I just want to remind you to have a good day, to wash your hands. And this is Falsebooles123, and I'm signing off.